What's up guys, this is Ray and welcome to Asian Filmist, and let's keep talking about superhero movies. Today we're going to be talking about the 2008 Japanese superhero film K-20, The Fiend with 20 Faces. K-20 is directed by Sato Shimako and stars Kaneshiro Takeshi, Matsu Takako, and Nakamura Toru. You might recognize Kaneshiro Takeshi much more from his Chinese filmography. I feel like he's more of a Taiwanese guy than a Japanese guy, but he still has enough movies in Japan to have a following here. K-20 is very loosely based on the novel series and character Akechi Kogoro, who is the character played by Nakamura Toru. And I say very loosely based because one, Akechi isn't the main character in this movie, and they do a lot of things different with Akechi in the story. Like Akechi, he's kind of a Sherlock Holmes in Japan. It escapes me how old or how classic the character is, but it's a long-running character, and I think many people if they don't know the character, they've at least heard of the name before. But Akechi Kogoro, at least in the books, he's the lead protagonist, but obviously that's not the case in this movie. And K-20 is actually his rival, who often appears in the books, but here he's the main focus of the story. And the story, I think you can interpret K-20 as either a superhero action film or even just a classic detective story with a lot of action involved in it. But I think because it shares so many elements of a typical superhero origin film, I thought talking about K-20 in this month was very appropriate. So K-20 is a very classical style of Phantom Thief, at least in Japanese pop culture, in the sense that it seems like he uses magic and illusions to steal prized treasures. And of course, before making any attempts at stealing, he always announces his targets. And he does so by leaving a letter with his official seal on it. You can't get as classic as that. And so Kaneshiro Takeshi, he plays Endo Heikichi, who's a bit of a circus magician. And in the world that K-20 is set in, it takes place in a world in which World War II never happened. And in the Japan of this time, there are two classes, a high class and a low caste. And Endo is part of the low caste. So he's poor, suffers from poverty and lack of food. And one day he accepts this job so that way he can earn some extra cash for his circus troupe, but doing so gets him framed as K-20. And so Endo escapes capture and runs away from the police, after which he joins his band of thieves. And the reason he joins his band of thieves is so he can steal some extra cash or some treasure to help some poor kids in the neighborhood. And so he trains in the art of parkour as he's running through the streets, and he also trains in the art of disguise, so that way he can disguise himself as any kind of person, any kind of job. So this training and this new type of lifestyle has him cross paths with K-20 once again, the one who framed him in the first place. And he also crosses paths with the great detective himself, Akechi Kogoro. And so the positives and negatives of K-20, let's talk about that. So first, the positives: the chemistry and the performances between the two lead characters, between Kaneshiro and Nakamura. It was entertaining, fantastic to watch on screen, and you just couldn't help but love both of them. Kaneshiro's character, it was charming and entertaining. You couldn't help but love the guy, and the guy who's kind of unlucky in life, who gets stuck in the wrong places at the wrong time, and from there he kind of makes most of the situation. And as I mentioned earlier, Endo, he's a circus magician, and he definitely has that presence, that kind of glamour whenever he performs his tricks and illusions. And I quite enjoyed Nakamura as an actor, and seeing him portray this cool and calculating detective, it was fun to watch. And this wouldn't be a superhero movie without some action, and the action portrayed in K-20, it was fun. It uses a lot of parkour, so that way not only Endo but also K-20 can dash around the city, and when they fight each other, they do a lot of free running as well. And of course, the fight choreography itself was quite entertaining. I also thought the world that the story took place in and the setting was intriguing, and it definitely made me interested in checking out the books. I don't know how similar the book is as compared to the movie, but it's definitely interesting. So as I said earlier, you have two classes, a higher class of rich folk and lower class of the guys stricken with poverty. And a combination of that and also the character design and the set design, it's an interesting world that looks more European and more Western than Japanese, that's for sure. And this movie has the makings of a good superhero origin story. And it's not the kind of superhero that gets bit by a radioactive spider or anything like that. It's a guy who gets stuck in the wrong place at the wrong time, but he trains his ass off so that way he can make a better life for himself, and in doing so surpasses his rival in a way. And so we have our hero and the rival using kind of the same tricks against each other, and the result of that is just pure entertaining. The story is lighthearted, it doesn't go into any kind of dark territory much, and so there aren't much negatives I have to say about K-20, except that I really didn't like Matsu Takako's character. Like, she was kind of a walking Deus Ex Machina. She pretty much, when she's on screen, she saved the day depending on what the situation called for, and it kind of made her character a bit boring. And I felt like the inclusion of her character was for that, and also just to kind of balance the level of testosterone that's present in every scene. I also didn't like what ended up being the motive of the main villain. It just didn't match up to what they were trying to hype up about the character. You kind of have this villain, you kind of have a vague idea of what he's about and his MO, but then when the final act comes around, and he reveals his intentions as to why he's doing what he's doing, it just didn't add up, and it just kind of came out of left field. And it felt that the reason why they did that is just to have a villain with this kind of a nihilistic goal that our hero just has to overcome and defeat. And it's a shame because the villain, up until the point in which he reveals his intentions, he was damn cool. But overall, what did I think of K-20? You know, despite its flaws, I absolutely loved it. It's definitely a movie I recommend watching. And like I said, like I keep saying, it has the makings of an authentic superhero origin story, and it's to the point where I wish that they continued the story of K-20 in maybe 1 or 2 more films. But unfortunately, as far as what I know, we only have this movie. I think we might even have a TV drama, but it's not connected to this movie. And this is definitely a superhero movie that's feel good, it's fun, it's not meant to make you go into dark places. It's that kind of superhero story. And if you're looking for something of that caliber, then this movie is for you. And so yeah, those are my thoughts on K-20, the Fiend with 20 faces. What did you guys think, or what kind of questions did you guys have? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and by all means support Asian Filmist through Patreon. It really helps the channel a lot. Plus, you can take advantage of some interesting and exciting perks that I've set aside for you guys. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all again in the next video. Take it easy.